I will start from the beginning. My name is Dylan McGrath. I have been playing Smash for about 7 years now. My tag's Mr. Ben Ready. I originally started playing Brawl in South Carolina, and then in like 2010, I think, I started playing Melee after Pound 4. I had got a job where I had to work every single day of the week, including Saturdays. Saturdays were pretty much mandatory. So I was looking for something that I could do on Sundays, and no one really hosted tournaments on Sundays in North Carolina. And I saw this post randomly one day from this guy, Kyle Router, whose tag is Cherry Popper, and he was starting to host Melee. I think it was PM. I actually don't think it was Melee, but it was just PM at first, out of this card store in Cary called Stuff and Such. And he had been going there a long time and was like pretty integrated with their like card community and wanted to get into Smash. And so he had no idea really how to run things or like how Smash goes in comparison to Yu-Gi-Oh! So he kind of made a post looking for help in some NC group or another. And me and my friend Lucas, who has also been running tournaments for a super long time in Raleigh and is probably one of the more established TOs in the region as well, we kind of both saw this as like an opportunity to kind of create something new, and nobody was really hosting anything on Sunday, and so we went there one Sunday and ran one of the, like, showed them how to run a PM tournament, and then we were like, well, what do you guys think about doing Melee next weekend?
I'm Lucas Hart Portnoy. My tag's Darkheart. I've been playing this game since like late 07, so before Brawl came out. I'm that old. I actually did, when I started out, I did run a few tournaments because I really wanted to be involved in the community, and it was really cool and really important to me to help out in any way I could, because everyone was just so like genuine, and it was a really like different atmosphere from anything else that I was ever used to. I took over the NCSU series for a little bit. It was started by Foxy, old school spacey player. Then Stingers picked up the mantle after a while, and then I ended up picking up the mantle after that. And it actually, I was running Carolina Clash tournaments. It was like an FGC event for FGC people, but they used the same venue that we had. So at some point they just weren't running tournaments, so I just said, let's just revamp the NCSU series, because Melee is getting really big, and it would be really good if we can get some large tournaments in like one of the best areas. I think this is a really good venue for us to have to play Smash, and I know everybody's looking for like weeklies or bi-weeklies, and I think we can do it. And of course we're all like skeptical. It's just like this kid that nobody really knows that well, and he's saying that he can find a place, and we're all like, yeah, sure, whatever. But we wanted to make sure that if it was going to happen in our area, we wanted to get it done right. So we went there one week. I want to say we started with like Melee. We had like 20 entrants, and I was like, oh, this is cool. It was a nice space. It was really spacious, especially considering there was only 20 people there at the time. It got bigger over time. We realized what we could do with it. I think in a few weeks after that, there was a PM tournament that like 40 people entered, like literally the week after, and Kyle Router was freaking out because he didn't know what to do. And so I think that's really when me and Dylan decided that we were gonna do our best to take over the series and try and make it as big as possible, considering like what we had in front of us and how much Henry Gibbs wanted to work with us in order to make it work for him and for us, and to keep us staying there and going.
And we met the owner, and the owner's name was Henry Gibbs. He was a really nice guy. It was a really super old guy, and he had like a really wizardly beard. And he's just like a cook, man. He's a character. He owned this store for like the past, I think he said since like the 80s, so it's like 30 years. And he just had stuff, and literally like such. So we started going more and more, and we started telling more and more people about it, and we decided we were going to do it pretty much every Sunday. And we for a little bit, I think we were running Melee and PM, just those two games, and we were trying to do it all in one day. And back then, I mean, we started with like 3 CRTs and I think like 9 entrants at our first event. And so it was just a really small concrete venue. Like everything about it was kind of old school and how it was done. A lot of the tournaments today are in pretty, I would say, not really necessarily classier venues, but definitely there's more attention to detail in terms of comfortability, and there's kind of a more expected level of quality now with just how big the scene's gotten and how big it gets. So it was kind of grassroots, but it was really modest, and I love that about it because it reminded me of like when I started playing, and at the end of the day we didn't have anything to prove. So we started pumping the hell out of these tournaments, and we were working pretty closely with Henry, and he was like, man, you know, you guys are bringing in more and more people to shop. Originally he didn't even want to charge people money to come to the things. He was charging like a $2 door fee, and we came at him with this idea of, you know, well, let's charge $5 and, you know, make a little bit of money for the store. And since that took off, it was just kind of a thing where he trusted us. He put a lot of faith in our ability to like run things, and that we knew what we were doing. And we showed up every Sunday ready to work too.
It was really cool to see that they were really interested in helping us, and they saw what we had, and they saw what we were trying to do and what we could do. And like I said, they were really willing to help us grow to the point where they would supply pop bonuses. When the Wii U came out and that version came out, they bought like a Wii U and a ton of amiibos and a controller, and we ran like an 80-man tournament for Smash 4, the first Smash 4 tournament in North Carolina at the time.
And it kind of was steadily building for a year, and we had this idea in the midst of all of this that we were going to kind of make a stand, like kind of an organization, and that's kind of where NEG comes from. We had this idea that we would take kind of the best of the best in all the respective fields of NC and kind of make a platform for showing off like NC talent in all Smash games, because really for the longest time, especially in today's era where every single aspect of the scene is so live streamed and displayed and recorded, and all the results go into like databases, and like challenge is so closely followed by people, there's like a certain level of interactivity that the viewer wants to see, and NC just wasn't supplying that level of kind of like professionalism or showmanship. So we kind of saw a gap in the market, I guess you could call it, or I guess a gap in the scene where we could have a better tournament experience for players and for viewers. So there was no reason not to try. And we got Kuzi K, who's a really good friend of ours, to start coming out on Sundays, and he streamed every event for us. And it was the same thing with him. As we hosted these events, and as they got bigger and bigger and busier, he got better and better, and the quality stepped up more and more. And it was like he was getting better and we were getting better, and it was building to something. And we weren't really sure what direction it was going to go. And around the time that we first came up with the name NEG, Mr. Henry had gotten sick, like really, really sick with brain cancer. And so when that kind of happened, he had to leave the store, and this fella, John, took over. John was a very intelligent guy and had the same kind of respect for our like level of creativity as Mr. Henry did. But John was also more business-minded, so he was actually the first person to say, hey, if you guys want, what we can start doing is we can start reinvesting back into the series and kind of improving the venue and seeing what we really have to do to get more people out. And this is the point where I started to realize that maybe we were doing more for the stuff and such than I thought we were.
They wanted to run an even larger event for Melee, which ended up being BMR, Bad Moon Rising. And that was a task.
Bad Moon Rising was what we called it. March, I think it was the 14th of March. I'm not sure. March 17th maybe. But it was a really, really fun event, and a lot of people came. Florida showed up, Cold Bowl, Hungry Box, and John was there, and Mr. Henry was there too, who had just been declared cancer-free by his doctor. And he made a visit and said that he was very happy that we had done this, and that he couldn't wait to keep doing more and more stuff with us and keep having more events like this every 3 months or so, which was like my dream scenario. And the extra venue that we had gotten was this warehouse style venue right next to the card store, and it was literally perfect for what we wanted to use it for, which was for running tournaments. And it had everything that I love about Stuff and Such, except bigger. It was concrete. It was just white tables, and it was just metal chairs, and there was a small stage with lights for players to play on during like the streaming setup, and during like grand finals and stuff like that. It was very, very modest, and it went beautifully. It was ran to perfection. This whole time we had been preparing for this tournament, we told ourselves over and over again that we were not going to fail, and we had this suspicion that we were, and so we kind of had this mentality of, I hope we pull it off, I hope we pull it off. And the whole time the event was going on, we kept looking around like, wow, are we really pulling this off?
That was definitely a task. We only had like a month and a half, like 2 months to set the whole thing up. We were very, I'd like to say I was the more of the pessimistic one of the two of us. Dylan was definitely a lot more optimistic, or at least outwardly optimistic about it. Even like while we were running it, he was like, dude, everything's fine, and I was just like pulling my hair out like the whole time, like short hair. That ended up being a much larger success than I think either of us thought it was going to be, and I think that helped put everything on the map, especially since we had just like started getting into the groove of what NEG was and what KDG was, and how we were going to help each other and how we were going to help grow our community. And I think that was a very good like a stepping point, like a good like lift-off point to bring us to what we can do and where we can go from here. SNS is the only series that I've seen the most consistent improvement from almost every single player that enters, and it's almost comparable to like the West Coast, their SoCal like Super Smash Sundays, like where they would just play like every other week, and they would just see them like play each other all the time and just get better and better and better. And you'd see players that had been playing for like maybe like 3 or 4 months like start out at SNS, and like by the time like a year later, they're like getting like top 3 at events. They're doing extremely well, like in teams. They're taking names from power ranked. They're taking names like they're beating power ranked players. Their tech skill is like more on point than anyone would have ever thought a few years ago would happen to anybody who was new at the game. And that has, I'm actually like shocked in a way, because I never actually expected that to happen.
We have some of the nicest like people helping out with our tournament series. We wouldn't be anywhere without the people who saw what we were doing and said, you guys are on the right track, I want to help how I can. And that is like, that's when you know that you're kind of like pushing the right buttons. And when people who see you doing your thing and they're like, man, I'm doing this thing and I want to do it with you guys because I feel like together we can, and that's what NEG is about. It's a dynasty. It's getting the best of everything and having one solid organization that is all about furthering NC Smash mostly above and beyond. And SNS over the past year has made us, I think, super good at that. And I don't know where we're gonna go from here exactly. It's kind of up in the air. I think we're gonna take a little bit of time off after La Paradiso, and we're gonna come back hopefully with a new venue, and we're gonna have some of the hypest tournaments North Carolina's ever seen. That's what we ideally would like to see, because, well, that would be nice.
It doesn't hurt that we've all known each other for like 6 or 7 years. That definitely helps. We've all always wanted to be like, people to help grow the community, and that's something we've all always aspired to. And we're clearly not the only ones, but we're definitely the ones who've like gone the furthest at this point. And I think that we all have a lot of the same ideas about what we want to happen and how we want it to happen. And I think, which makes communicating between all of us extremely easy. Like, if someone would see like the conversations that the 3 of us would have, like you might not be able to tell that we're like getting anything done. But like then BMR happens, yeah. And like you realize, you're like, oh, these guys it's like you have like verbal shorthand with each other, and I think that definitely helps a lot. Not to mention we all have experience running things as well, and we saw back before Evo before EVO 2013, things were waning a little bit, and we all wanted to make sure that that didn't happen. We wanted to make sure that things kept growing and kept getting better, and so I think it's just sort of an amalgamation of events that just came to fruition, and it's just really, again, there's just almost like I don't have words to explain like how awesome it is that it just happened like that. Like, it's almost like synchronous in a way. Like, it just happened, and we just are sort of going with it at this point, and now we know that we can keep going with it and go as far as we want.
This one is gonna be funny. How long have we been friends, and describe how we first met?
Oh dear God. I first met Dylan at one of the NCSU events that that Foxy ran. It was at the top of I don't remember what was the name of that building. Well, I don't remember the name of the.
Braga.
No, it wasn't Braga. It was you remember? It was like North Hall or something.
Oh yeah, North something.
Yeah, it was at the very top of like a building, and it was like this huge like lounge like space, but there was only like 20 of us at the time because like it was really small. It was like 2010 at that point, and I just met Dylan. We'd had some very interesting interactions on Smash boards when that was relevant, and the first thing that I remember him saying to me is that I didn't really think I'd like you when I met you, but you're a pretty cool dude. I was like, thanks, man. You're a pretty cool dude too, man. I like your shirt. It has a wolf on it. It was pretty cool. He told me he was a freestyle rapper. He was into all that at the time. Beardless as well. Babyface Dylan. So it was pretty good. It was pretty fun. He had like just gotten into Melee because Pound 4. It happened he watched the legendary friendlies between Mango and Armada and said, I clearly have to play this game. Clearly. I don't want to get camped.
You are going to spit some for us later.
It was a long time ago.
It was a long time ago.
It was the dopest shit I ever wrote.
How did you